Good morning, everybody. Happy Saturday. Hope you guys are doing well this morning. We've got a lot of college football to get through today, but we got to go through this main event here. Tomorrow afternoon, 1:05 p.m., Seahawks playing the Panthers at home, dealing with the Red Rifle, being pulled out of the storage unit yet again. And seems like that happens every year, doesn't it? Andy Dalton ends up starting a lot of games when he starts the year as a backup. If you are a starting quarterback on a team that signs Andy Dalton to be the backup, watch out. That's all I'm saying, because it seems like something bad is going to happen to you. So we're dealing with Andy Dalton, and that poses a couple of unique challenges. Now, before I talk about this game, I want to say real quick, I plan on live streaming this game tomorrow afternoon. Stream should go live around 1 o'clock. We'll catch the end of the late game, or excuse me, we'll catch the tail end of the early games, and then we'll do a watch-along stream of the Panthers Seahawks. I'll do play-by-play. I'll talk about the game. I'll talk to people in chat. You guys know how it goes. I'll make another video a little later just to talk about that, so as many people as possible are aware. But for those of you who may be interested, I plan on live streaming the Panthers Seahawks game tomorrow afternoon. Hope to see you there. Should have some fun, and hopefully we can come away with the win. But this game, there are some unique challenges here. And I'm not just talking about Andy Dalton, because right away I know a lot of Seahawks fans are going to say, oh, Andy Dalton is a bigger problem to the Seahawks than Bryce Young would have been. They have a better chance of beating us with Andy Dalton than Bryce Young. And I do kind of agree with that, but bigger than that, let's take a step back from that. Carolina Panthers are 0-2. Carolina Panthers are 0-2, and I think that any football team that starts 0-2 that isn't just a complete pushover, a complete non-factor, they're going to respond to that 0-2 record in a big way. They may not win, but they're going to do everything in their power to not start 0-3, because starting 0-2 is bad. Starting 0-3 is basically a death sentence. If you start 0-3, your chances of making the playoffs are statistically insignificant at that point. So you look at that, just the big picture. We are playing a team that has their backs against the wall. If they lose this week, they're pretty much out of it, and they know it. That division already has two teams that have started 2-0. A couple of those teams are, I'd say at least one of those teams is going to start 3-0. You're going to be 3 games in the hole. They've got issues on that roster. It's not like a great team that just needs time to gel or anything. I think they're aware of that. If they lose this game, it's over. So I expect their best shot just because of that. So just on that level, I think we're getting a unique challenge, and we got to be wary of that. We have to understand that this Panthers team is going to throw a lot of stuff at us. They're probably going to be playing with an intensity we did not see the first 2 games from them. They're going to come out desperate, like we were last week, but even more so. Now, if they don't, then that's a pretty bad indictment of where they are as a team right now, where we can look at them and go, hey, they are one of the worst teams in the league. They are that bad. But I don't necessarily think they are. So look for this to not be an easy get. But as for how we make it a get, because at the end of the day, the goal is to win. This is not college football. We don't have any obligation to win by 3 touchdowns. We don't have an obligation to blow them out and have the game done by halftime. The only thing we're obligated to do is win. So let's start with that Panthers offense, because the Andy Dalton stuff is front and center. Bryce Young out, Andy Dalton in. I already made a video talking about this. I've talked about this a little bit previously this week, but it does not take a genius to know that there is a huge difference between the Panthers with Bryce Young and the Panthers with Andy Dalton. In fact, I think you'd be hard-pressed to find a situation from a starter to a backup in the NFL that is more polar opposite. Bryce Young gives you mobility, improvisational skills, a good arm, playmaking ability, but his brain is not caught up to NFL speed yet. He makes bad decisions because he's new to this league, and he's going to give you more opportunities to take the ball away. Andy Dalton's the exact opposite. He gives you no mobility. His arm is probably basically cooked. He's about to turn 36. I don't think he's got much of an arm left at this point. He never had a great arm, but now it's probably just like very, very thin. Maybe not quite Brad Johnson '08 levels yet, but he probably doesn't really have much of an arm left anymore. But you're getting good decision making. You're getting NFL veteran experience. You're getting the awareness to know how to take what the defense gives you, not turn it over, not throw the game away, and just hope that things work out at the end if you avoid mistakes. You are getting those things from him that you're not getting from Bryce Young. It's a completely different set of positives and negatives. And a lot of people, a lot of Seahawks fans have come out this week and said, I'd rather have played Bryce Young than Andy Dalton because Andy Dalton's beaten us before. He's had good games against us before. He beat us last year, although that had a lot more to do with Taysom Hill and Alvin Kamara than anything that Andy Dalton was doing. But he did beat us last year, and this is the kind of quarterback that gives us trouble. These veteran quarterbacks that know how to take it easy. They're not going to push the ball 40 yards down the field into double coverage. They're not going to try to outrun a bunch of pass rushers and then throw the ball across their body 40 yards to some dude who's open by 2 inches. They're not going to do that stuff. They're just going to take what the defense gives you. And traditionally, the issue here is that the Seahawks give a lot. They give you the stuff underneath. The whole defense is predicated on this idea of eventually they're going to get greedy and then we make them pay. Andy Dalton is a quarterback who is smart enough to not get greedy. He's been in this league a long time. He's played this Seahawks team before. He's beaten better Seahawks teams than this, although obviously back then he was a much better player than he is now. But he has an understanding of these things the same way Colt McCoy had a little bit of an understanding of these things. The same way that a guy like Matt Schaub has a bit of an understanding of these things. These simple concepts that allow you to really rack up yards 6 to 8 yards at a time, slowly moving down the field, taking the easy throw, taking the easy underneath stuff, and just never making that mistake where you go, I got to take my shot here. No, you don't have to take your shot here. You can get through a game against the Seahawks sometimes without ever taking that shot and win because your shots that you took were all high percentage. So a lot of people see that and a lot of people go, man, I wish we were dealing with Bryce Young. And I get it. I mean, we played this Panthers team at home last year too, and they got us with Sam Darnold throwing for 120 yards and just handing the ball off all day. He threw the ball 24 times. They ran the ball like double that. You usually don't see that in the modern NFL. Now, the good news is our run defense is much improved this year, and they lost Donta Foreman. They got Miles Sanders, who really hasn't been that good this year. Seems like he was a little bit of a product of that Philly offensive line, which is so good. So they're not going to be able to run the ball on us the way they did last year, or the Saints did last year when they had Dalton. They may be able to run the ball okay, but I do think our run defense improvement is at least somewhat sustainable. Not like it was the first 2 weeks. That was really, really good, but it's going to be good. And I don't think this Panthers team is going to be able to get away with what they did last year. There were some sequences where they just ran the same play over and over and over again. We couldn't do nothing about it. That should not happen this year. Also, working in our favor is what is going on around Andy Dalton. It's not exactly murderer's row. It's not even really as good as what he had last year with the Saints. And he doesn't have a Taysom Hill who can come in and relieve some of the pressure and provide some stuff that is outside the confines of a typical NFL game. The Panthers do not have very good receivers. They, like I said, don't have great running backs anymore, or at least I think their running backs have taken a step back. Tight end room is very Offensive line is noticeably bad. So he doesn't have a lot to work with here. His best receiver is probably DJ Chark. They've got who else? What's his name? Jonathan Mingo, the rookie. Not too impressed with him. Wasn't a big fan of him coming out. Don't like him that much. They got Terrace Marshall Jr., who I really liked coming out of the draft. It hasn't happened for him yet, but he's still very young. They got Adam Thielen from the Vikings, who kind of on his last leg, still a decent possession receiver, but definitely doesn't have the shock and awe ability of Vikings Adam Thielen from several years ago. So their receiver core has got to be one of the worst in the league. DJ Chark, it seems like his best days are behind him at this point. Tight end, they got Hayden Hurst. He's okay. They got Tommy Tremble, who looks like a bust, which surprises me. I like Tommy Tremble a good amount coming out of college. But, yeah, they don't really got much going in the pass-catching arena. And I know you don't have Reek Woolen, and I know you may not have some other guys in that secondary, but you have the opportunity here to challenge those receivers throughout the entire route, not just give up underneath stuff and protect the deep ball. You have the opportunity here to play aggressively and have some degree of belief and faith that they're not going to punish you for it. Like the first couple weeks, we played some teams with receivers that, as it turns out, can punish you. Even a guy like Tutu Atwell, who is not really a good receiver, he's a fast receiver. He can punish you over the top if you let him get behind you. Panthers don't really have anybody like that. So you should be able to play more aggressively than you do against a lot of other teams, because they're not going to threaten you deep. They're not going to threaten you with any elite receivers. Now, Andy Dalton, not really a mobile quarterback anymore, can't really move back there. You don't have to worry about turning your back to him and then he's taking off for a 20-yard scramble. That's not happening. So you can play man defense on him. You can man up. You can send pressure at him and trust that he's not going to be able to break the pocket, break contain, and take off for a big gain. You can just play a straight up man defense on him and say, okay, you got to make those tight window throws. You got to throw it 40 yards down the field accurately. If you can't do those things, we're going to make this a very, very long day for you. You do those things, I think you can get it done on the defensive side of the ball. We might miss a couple of guys, but it's not that bad, guys. Diggs should play. Love expected to play. Brooks should be good. Reed should be good. It's not that bad. Woolen being out is unfortunate. I would have loved to have seen what we would have done in this game with Woolen and Witherspoon, but it's not happening right now. But what we have should be good enough, and that's not even the biggest advantage here. We're talking about a bad offensive line. That Panthers offensive line missing Brady Christensen, Ikem Ekwonu, not really showing that top 10 draft pick pedigree that people expected when he was taken. There's been some good stuff with him, of course, but there's also been some very shaky stuff, especially in pass protection. So there's an opportunity to get some serious pressure on Andy Dalton. Taylor Moton's pretty good on the right side. The interior of that offensive line is really, really messy. Bozeman's a pretty good run blocker, I guess, but pass blocking, I think you can get it in on him. So I'm looking for Draymond Jones, Jaron Reed, and Mario Edwards to do damage on that interior offensive line. And you get pressure on Dalton, he's not going to be able to do much to escape it. That's going to force him into awkward situations. He does not have the arm to throw through pressure. And I think that if those things happen, the defense will find a way to finally shut down one of these smart veteran quarterbacks who takes what the defense gives him, because we don't need to give them anything. They're not good enough for us to have to say, we have to give them this, we have to give them that. Should not be the case. And then you get to the Seahawks offense, which admittedly has their work cut out for them, probably a little more than the defense. Carolina, they're missing J.C. Horn, they're missing Shaq Thompson, two of their best defenders. Their defensive line is still pretty stacked, though. They've got Brian Burns, he's one of their edge rushers. I know they're playing a 3-4, but edge rusher-wise, you've got Brian Burns in a contract year, great player. You've got Derek Brown in a contract year, another really good player. You've got, I like Shy Tuttle. I know he's not a superstar or anything like that, but I think he's pretty good. Old man Justin Houston is there. So our beat-up offensive line is going to have challenges this week for sure. And it's not like the Detroit Lions, who don't have a bad defensive line, but it's really just one guy. It's Hutchinson. And then there's a big drop-off to the next. They have a couple of, I'm not here to say everyone else on that Lions defensive line is terrible, but Hutchinson is far and away their best guy. This defensive line, I'm looking at Brian Burns, I'm looking at Derek Brown, I'm looking at, to a certain extent, Justin Houston, and I'm saying they can punish you in different ways. So we're going to have to keep helping our backup tackles. Stone Forsyth, Jake Curhan, continue to help them. Do not leave them on islands, which is why we had to make sure we got Brady Russell promoted for this game. So we're probably going to need him. 3 tight end sets, 2 tight end sets. I know it's frustrating. I know we all want to see what's going on with JSN, but this may not be his game. This might not be his time right now. Do what you have to do for now. Run the ball. You're going to do it some. Of course, you've got a couple healthy running backs. You're going to have to run the ball a little bit. Run the ball to the right side behind Curhan, and hopefully things go well. But they've got a couple menaces on that linebacker core as well with Frankie Louvu. Now, okay, I shouldn't say couple because Shaq Thompson's out, but Frankie Louvu's a menace. And with Derek Brown doing what he does, it's going to be not super easy to run on this Panthers team. We're still working on the running game, people. We got Stone Forsythe in there. We got Damian Lewis regressing so badly as a run blocker, it's not even funny. And it's going to be tough to run the ball, but we definitely got to keep balanced here. We cannot let that Carolina team start to just sit on the passing game like they were last year. Last year when we played them, we basically had no running backs. They knew we just had to throw the ball 90% of the time, and we did, and they were able to force turnovers and negative plays and win that game. This game, you got to maintain some level of balance. However, remember who you are. You are a team that is ultimately driven by your passing attack. When Geno plays a big game, when Geno has a big game, you're very likely to win. When Geno plays cleanly, you're likely to win. And when DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett and some of JSN and these tight ends are involved in the passing game, that means you're doing things the right way. So this offense, it's ultimately driven, I believe, by their passing attacks. So don't get away from that. Don't think that running the ball for 2 yards a carry right into the throat of Derek Brown is going to get it done. Challenge the outside. See if you can get Brian Burns out of position a little bit. I do think you can definitely get some stuff in him on the ground there. But don't forget who you are. Do not forget that you are a pass-first team now. And I think that'll be enough. I think it'll be enough to win the game. Obviously, I would feel very much better about it if we had our tackles. I would feel better about it if I had more faith in somebody like Phil Haynes playing. I would feel better about it if Jamal Adams was out there, etc., etc., etc. But I feel like there should be enough going on here for us to get this win. I mean, with no J.C. Horn out there, it's going to have to completely change the way the Panthers play coverage. They're not going to be able to sick J.C. Horn on somebody and trust that he's going to be able to take him out of the game. They don't have that guy anymore. Their secondary is pretty suspect now. They've got like Jeremy Chin back there. They've got Xavier Woods, okay players, but you can challenge that secondary and win most of the time. This is not like last year when J.C. Horn made a couple plays on you. So I'm going to say we win, probably something like 23-13, 23-16. Feel pretty good about it. Hope to see you guys soon. Hope to see you guys for the stream. I'm out of here. Enjoy your college football today. Peace out, Go Hawks. See y'all later.